Hey guys, welcome back to the More Than Muscle podcast. I'm your host, Matt Cooney, and this is episode 9. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Nathalie Lennon. Nat, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you, Matt? Thank you so much for having me here. Thrilled to be here.
Not a bother. I'm really good, thank you, except for the rain outside, like I was telling you, in Bali. Usually the sun is meant to be shining, but I think I'm going to be in darkness now in about half an hour.
Oh God, it's so unusual when we're in the sunshine here for a change.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was like, Ireland is, at least it's good. I'll take it for Ireland to give you sun for a while.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
So, for any of the listeners that mightn't know who Nat is a personal trainer, online coach, and nutrition coach. She has quite a big presence online, and I really like the message that she puts across, which is health, positivity, and just how to live a more balanced and healthy lifestyle. So that's what we're going to dig into today. Did I miss anything there, Nat?
No, bang on. You literally got it bang on. There's no point in trying to give too much of an intro. That's perfect, Matt. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so we get stuck in. So what we're going to do today, we're going to cover a bit of kind of nutrition, health, and all kind of always come back to the psychology and mindset kind of areas, which I tend to always just speak about, even if I don't want to. So the first thing I wanted to ask you about was kind of nutrition. I know over the last few years, like us all, your kind of approach to nutrition has evolved. And I know you went back to study last year. And so maybe if you wanted to just explain, say, how that has evolved over the last couple of years for you.
Absolutely, yeah. So I've probably grown a far bigger passion for nutrition than I have fitness at this stage. I'm just far more consumed by, nutrients and minerals and how food affects the body and the mind than I am muscle growth and fat loss at this stage. Now, so my own relationship with food and in how I coach, it's actually been the same. And I think a lot of coaches are definitely afraid to say that they used to coach a certain way and now they've changed it to be a different way because they don't want to admit that they were doing things possibly wrong or not sustainably enough for themselves or for their clients. And I'm very open with that. I think we all have to learn from our mistakes. But the reason why I'm so open with it is because Brian Keane would always say your mess is your message. And I feel like if coaches don't share what we've learned from what we've done with ourselves and our clients, we need to help each other because at the end of the day, we should all have the same goal of helping clients build a sustainable and healthy relationship with food and fitness. So in the past, I guess that wasn't necessarily what I saw nutrition as being. That should have been the most important tool. I saw it as being just short-term periods of work. So you know yourself, Matt, and I do understand that there is an element of fitness and strength and physical, goals that will come down to this, but there is just a fine line in finding that balance. That being say your cut and your bulk and your cut and your bulk and your on season and your off season. So I did a bikini competition before. I shouldn't have done it, but I was too consumed by the whole cut and the bulk idea and how the numericals of nutrition could adjust our physique and the reflection in the mirror. And that's all it was about. We are mind, body, and spirit. And I know that sounds extremely woo-woo and hippie. I'm not a hippie. I'm not good at yoga. I really should be more. But we're mind, body, and spirit. And people forget that. And they think that we're just body because that's sensationalized. And nutrition can just change the body, but it can also really damage or boost the mind. So I suppose to go back to the question, I have gone from being extremely numerically and calorie macro focused to trying now to integrate that a lot more with overall wellness, sustainability. Are you enjoying your food? Are you panicking when you go out to eat? Are you able to, sustain a physical reflection and self that you are happy with, whilst also sustaining a good relationship with food, with how you cook? Are you actually ticking all the mineral boxes, the vitamin boxes, getting enough protein? Are you having healthy fats? Are you fearing any food? Are you eating foods for your mental health? Are you supporting liver, kidney function? Are you supporting, recovery from your workouts? But are you doing all of this understanding why you're doing it? Are you being educated by social media or the coach or whatever it is, or are you being dictated and you've no idea why you're doing what you're doing? You're just doing it because you know you'll get the physical results. It's about education and looking after your mind as well as your body. Confidence in your body and your health and in who you are comes down to what you do. And I think when I was, maybe some people might say, looking my best, I was at my lowest with regards to my confidence, because I knew what I was doing with my nutrition, with my fitness. I knew the relationship there wasn't good. I knew it wasn't sustainable long term, but it's fine long term. Or sorry, it was fine short term. So I just kind of kept doing it. But I didn't really have the confidence there, because long term, I didn't know where it was going to take me. And it didn't take me anywhere. It brought me down a really, really bad path, a low path, and, low bone density, losing my period, really low weight. I never rebounded from things like some people do. I went the opposite way. And at the end of the day, thank God I saw the light. And the same in how I coach my clients. I do it way different now. It's all about a week to week, sustainable, good relationship with food and fitness, your sleep, your mindset, your mindfulness. Are you able to incorporate balance? If you're not incorporating balance, well, this week your challenge is to actually go and have a meal out, because I want to know that you can. So little things like that. Very, very long winded answer to your question, Matt.
But yeah, no, I think it's really interesting. And like you said about being open about it is, I think it's so powerful, because again, it makes you human to other people, and it makes you relatable. And I think by doing that, it actually helps to empower people, because they see like you have changed, you have learned, and I think sometimes we like, as coaches, we might think we need to give the impression that we know it all and we're perfect, like especially when it comes down to nutrition and stuff. But most, like, we're all not. Like, any experienced coach will be able to look back at like 10 years ago and be like, whoa, I used to do all that stuff,
Yeah.
like even for myself now, like while you were saying about what you used to do, like that just sparked for me. I'm like, yeah, some of the things, like I wouldn't have had, like I didn't have, maybe go to the lower points, but just even things like being very conscious about numbers.
Yes.
And I think for me, what tends to happen is when you first figure this stuff out with numbers, and you're like, it's like a computer, you're like, I can punch these numbers in and then this happens to my body. And you're like, oh yeah, that's it's cool, like, and but you don't think past that. So you're just like, I just have to do this. And then you start you lose basically
You lose your
everything.
intuition.
Yeah, you lose everything else in the process, because now you think this is all you need to do, is like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
this is my calories, this is my macros.
Exactly. It's one thing I said before, because I think, look, every personal trainer thinks they're a nutritional coach because they can teach someone how to count their calories and their macros. But I try to get the message across to people, going, like, that's what you go to school for. That's why you do maths in primary school, so you can understand basic maths. You do not need a coach to tell you how to count and how to subtract and how to add and how to check your weight. Like, you can do that on your own. What you need is someone to teach you. You need like education as to why you're doing what you're doing, like minerals, vitamins, nutrients. That's what you need to understand long term, all it is. Because when it comes to physicals, mathematics, they're going to work for you, like, but are they going to work for your mental health? Probably not.
Yeah. And
So yeah.
that's like, so have you is it recently? How recently was it? Have you moved away yourself from tracking calories? Because I know that's what you would have done in the past, like you were saying, when you had physique goals.
Yeah, so I suppose, listen, I actually do think tracking calories is still really beneficial. Matt, and it's not something I would tell my clients to, completely blindfold themselves against. I haven't actually had to do it, but I wouldn't be against with some clients going, listen, I actually want you to track your calories for a week or 2 weeks and come back to me. It would depend on that client and my, like how I think their relationship with food and fitness is. Some people you can tell straight away it's not something they should be doing, but I definitely wouldn't be against it. Sometimes I think I can come across that way. I just think if you can go a different way around it without having to track it, brilliant. But sometimes people need to understand it. So I think understanding the basis of calories and macros is extremely important. It's just important to do everything else. But myself, I probably stepped away from it, oh God, maybe 2 years ago now. But like when I was going to the dietitian, say, I would have been tracking calories to gain weight because it was just too difficult for me. Naturally, a lot of women do tend to underestimate sometimes if there's someone who has suffered from the likes of an eating disorder, or ED behaviors or thoughts, which is really common nowadays. They would tend to underestimate when they're not tracking. So it was probably 2 to 2.5 years ago. I would still, like, I have my fitness pal. If I'm doing a recipe or anything, something new or snacks that I'm going to share on Instagram, I would still work out the calories, the macros, proteins, fats all the time for something new like that. Because for me, when I'm creating something, if I'm trying to create like a healthy treat, I want to know if it's balanced. I want to know if I can pump up the protein and have the healthy fats and actually balance out a snack. Or if it's not, well, then I want to know it's not, and I want to share with my audience, you should add peanut butter and yogurt to this to balance it out. So I stepped away from doing it, like, I suppose, so obsessively, that long ago, 2.5 to 3 years. When I went back to re-educate myself with the Irish Institute of Nutrition and Health, it was a level 6 degree that I got from there. I guess I learned so much more, and I learned so many different ways that we can go about educating people as well, which was fantastic. I highly recommend that course. As well, you can go back and study to become a nutritional therapist level 8. So I think just for any other coaches listening, or anyone who just wants to educate themselves, if you're thinking about doing a course, think about what might be there afterwards as well, and if there's a path you can continue to follow. But
Yeah, that's actually kind of like me. I haven't really tracked calories for about 2 years, 2.5 as well. I think maybe 4 or 6 weeks during that whole time. But
yeah,
I think it is the way I kind of look at it as well. Like you said, it's not like you shouldn't use it or you should. It's more about like the context and the situation with the person. But then also, like, if you are tracking calories, knowing that that's one little tiny thing and all the other areas need to be looked after, like you said, with education and understanding that, like, even for me, I have a lot of clients that track calories, of a lot that don't. And what I do with a lot of people is getting them away from tracking calories, because they might come to me tracking for 3 or 4 years. And the way I kind of say it to them is, you actually need to learn how to not track and to
you need,
trust as a lot of them don't trust themselves without it. So the way I put it is,
yeah,
sometimes it's very easy to use MyFitnessPal or tracking like a crutch, and then you don't, when you try and step away from it, you don't trust yourself. And that's like what you were saying with becoming more mindful with your food, understanding why you eat and enjoying your food. And even just, I think something definitely for me before, when I was always tracking, was I had no real concept of like how foods made me feel. I was just
yeah,
like, at the end of the day, I need to hit these numbers. Whatever way I
yeah.
do it, I don't really care. And then it's not until like the later years now that I'm becoming so much more mindful about, and like you said, about nutrients and how actually food affects you, not just as a number, you know.
Brain fog, yeah. We've had such similar journeys in terms of the numerical side of things, Matt. And I think um when it comes to our clients and what we're like telling them to do and not to do, like, we have to remember, and we do, like, we tracked calories for so long that that's partly why we never really need to anymore, because you can nearly do it in your mind. Like, I wish I could turn it off, but when I look at a plate, I nearly know straight away. Like, you want to turn it off, but you've done
Yeah.
it for so long, it's hard not to. But I do think, like what you said there about I would be very similar. I'm trying to help people step away from MyFitnessPal. And it's funny because anxiety is a big problem these days. You know, it's affecting a lot of people. Anxiety around so many different issues, social anxiety, body image. But a big one now is actually the inability to eat without tracking things. That's becoming something that is really affecting people these days, because MyFitnessPal seems to be acting as an actual like destruction of people's intuitions. Like if you think back to years ago, I'm talking like paleo, like back when not even paleo, okay, like back when our parents were like kids, you know, there was never really an obesity problem. They just ate. Now I know, okay, longevity, the ages of death back then mightn't have been as long as what we're getting them to now in some parts of the world, but they had their intuitions because they had less technology to affect it. But technology, MyFitnessPal, is literally breaking a link in our mind and our body that was the intuition link. And what we seem to be trying to helping a lot of people to do, and that we've got ourselves to do, is to actually rebuild that link. And that takes time. It takes admitting defeat. It takes being open-minded. And it takes probably going against the grain a little bit on social media and diet culture, because we don't want to track things as much. But it's just regaining intuition.
Yeah. And just even out of curiosity, for what if you were say like taking people away from tracking, is
Yeah.
like you said, there is a lot of anxiety. I know exactly what you mean. Like, is there any yeah, particular things that you would kind of focus on as you're doing it, or strategies that you find work well? Just because I know there's a lot of
Brilliant.
listeners maybe in that situation.
In that position, yeah. So it's a brilliant question. I suppose first off, you have to realize that everyone is different. You know, I know you know that, but for anyone listening, that not every way of kind of, you know, healing things, you could say, and that's where there's a very fine line between being able to help someone and then being able to tell someone, do you know what, you actually need to go and work with a serious professional, a therapist on this. And I've done that with people as well. But okay, I guess some of the tools that I would use to help someone step away from MyFitnessPal is, as a coach, first off, kind of telling them, but listen, for now, treat me as your tracker. Treat me as your new MyFitnessPal. So you still have a bit of a crutch to hold on to, but we're letting go of the numericals. I want you to delete the app straight away. But we're going to keep an online food diary. Now, I don't want you to weigh the foods, but you can tell me handfuls, you can tell me spoons, you can tell me cupfuls, but I want you to step away from weighing it. And now the first 2 weeks, usually for people who might be like experiencing extreme anxiety around letting go of MyFitnessPal, the first 2 weeks will be really difficult. And as a coach, I can tell you that you can nearly tell straight away that's when you need to be there most, and you need to tell them that you're there for them every single day, and message them at the end of every single day, send me pictures of your meals at the end of every single day, at least for the first 2 weeks, and I'll tell you, I'll tell you that's okay, or I'll tell you if it's not. Like, you got to trust me here. You have to trust your coach. And then usually after 2 weeks of doing that, they start to contact you less. They're sending pictures less because they've realized that in 2 weeks, their body didn't change a whole lot. Not using MyFitnessPal wasn't the end of the world, but in those 2 weeks, it will be hard if you're experiencing anxiety. So you just need to be, as a coach, extremely supportive and ready for that. And I guess that would be the best way about it. Then in the time after that, Matt, everyone's different. Some people need that support for the full 8 weeks. Some people don't need that much support at all. But in that time then, it's important that you help people actually then start to eat different foods. Because you can see that, okay, they get comfortable having you as their crutch and not weighing things, but they're having the very same meals every week. So then you need to suggest different recipes. You need to ask them to try different recipes. You need to actually ask them to eat out more sometimes. Sometimes you need to ask them to eat out less. It depends on the goal here. And then coming towards the end of a block, say a block of coaching, you know yourself, sometimes someone's not ready to let go of you. Like some clients, they're good to go after 8 weeks. They have their intuition link rebuilt. Some people don't. It can take 16, 24 weeks. But towards the end of a period with someone, I generally would say, look, I want you to do a week without contacting me. Or maybe at the end, if they're not sure whether they need to kind of keep going with that support or not, be like, look, take a week, absolutely no contact. I don't want to hear from you. I don't want you to keep a diary here. I just want you to go as normal. Record some notes at the end of the day. We'll touch base in a week and let's see how you found it without having me as your crutch, because it used to be my fitness pal, then it was the coach, and as a coach you need to make sure that you leave them feeling comfortable with no crutch bar their own voice and their own brain and their own, inner self. So they need to become their own crutch by the end of your path together. And you can't tell someone that's going to happen in 8 weeks or 16 weeks. Everyone's different.
Yeah, 100%. And what you said there, I think with the 2 week period, the first initial, that's why I would be very much the same as telling people, like, especially just it's more the psychology, I think, of people trusting themselves not to lose control. And like,
Yeah,
that's something I would say is like, do not do anything different than you normally do. Just do not put the food into my fitness pal. I'm like, you can eat the exact same way, but you're just not tracking it. And then what tends to happen is, like you said, after 2 weeks, when they realize, like, I haven't blown up, or they start to gain that trust in themselves. And then it's like that support as well, is having someone there and something to focus on, whether it's like that, just keeping your eating structure, or just a lot of little things. And I think, like you said, it's just time. Some people like literally 2 weeks and they're like, I never on track again in my life, I'm perfect, I'm loving life, and
yeah,
others then find it very, very difficult. So I think that's
yeah,
just something to know, especially if you're listening, because sometimes like, everyone is different, and you might think that if after 2 weeks you're not perfect with no tracking, that you're doing something wrong, but you're not. It's just literally different timelines for different people. And like that,
exactly.
it's just always picking something to be focusing on. Like, I really like what you said about the variety, and then
Yeah,
adding in more like meals out and stuff. And I think that's really important, because it's very easy to get stuck, even when you stop tracking, to eating the exact same foods,
yeah,
weighing everything to the gram. And even, I think a big thing that you said is undereating. I find a lot of people will stop tracking and undereat just
yeah,
naturally, because that's like down to the mindset towards food, and like, being able to
exactly.
let yourself eat more without any guilt or any thought about it.
Yeah, and I think as well, the amount of time that it takes comes down to how damaged your relationship with food became, how disordered your eating became. There's a huge percentage of social media users suffer from disordered eating. And it's something that some days, even still, I'm like, am I, is this ordered? Is this disordered? It's such a fluffy term. We don't really know what's disordered or ordered anymore. But it definitely all comes down to just the individual and their level of strength, and trusting in their coach. And then when it comes to the variety side of things, I think sometimes like coaches need to be, and I know you would be, but they need to be really tuned in on that. Like if they're looking over someone's food diary and they're rating their happiness, their stress, their energy, their hunger, everything is good. You don't just kind of say, grand, keep it up, keep it up, keep it up, good, keep it up. You need to actually go, right, okay, they've actually had the same foods every day for the last 3 weeks. And then when you suggest having something new, they panic. And that's where, as a coach, you need to be tuned in and help them and realize that you need to push new foods at people more and more and more and more, because that's sustainability. And I think like that's not something as a coach 4 years ago I was tuned in on. And now I'm more tuned in on it than ever, so that's a very good point.
Yeah, no, I'm laughing because I'm actually, last week with a client, I in their check-in, I was like, I said to them, I'm like, if I see a tin of tuna in your food diary this week, I'm like, it's banned. Try it. You're
Yeah.
not having that this week. But we were just laughing. We were actually having a laugh about it. But yeah, no, it is funny. That's definitely something, even for myself, only over years, you kind of, I suppose, as a coach like that, when you develop more, to be able to see kind of beyond just the macros. And that's actually something I wanted to delve into next, is like micronutrients and food quality for health.
Yeah.
Do you think
Yeah.
that's something that's, because I know you're big into it, that's been overlooked a lot in nutrition?
Yeah, big time. So the course I done really helped me to realize how important that was. I think I actually spoke about this to someone yesterday as well. I think the fitness industry and the health industry have completely lost a link between them. Um, and I think that's going to really damage people down the line. Like, I don't think all these kind of processed foods, the non-organics, the pesticides, all the sweeteners, artificial ingredients, the hype that's put around coffee, and the hype that's there on not getting enough sleep, the hype and showing Instagram that you stayed up till 1 a.m. working with all your clients and you got up at 6 a.m. the next morning. That's not healthy. All the artificial ingredients, that's not healthy. You don't know what that's going to do to you long term. Cancer rates are booming up everywhere. Why? Well, look at everything else that's changed in our diets. Look at all the pesticides. Look at all the artificial ingredients. Look at all the radiation. Look at all the toxins. Look at all the water you're drinking that's not filtered. And we're just going to keep on doing it because we're fine in the moment. And it's something that, to be honest, Matt, it scares me because I'm not perfect. I have a brother-in-law, and God, if he's listening to this, he's amazing. He triple distills all his water. Everything is organic all the time. He's like, I swear to God, the man is going to live till he's 150. But sometimes when you're just that busy, you don't have time to focus on these things. But it's something that's extremely overlooked, and it frightens me, to be honest with you. When we're just trying to help someone improve their everyday health, we can't really ask them to invest in all organic food, to invest in the best water filter, test out the level of toxins in their body, in their environment, their radiation, where they live. But I do think all of this is something that in maybe 80, 100 years time, it's going to come to the fore, and people are going to realize how it's affecting their cells, on a really, really molecular level, and how it's affecting their brain on an absolutely minuscule level. I want to say that I have all these tips for people, but I'm only figuring it out myself. At home, I'm trying to use no BPA in bottles and things like that. If I'm shopping, the weeks that I can afford it, I'll buy more organic foods. It's all about balance at the end of the day. I really do support an 80-20 lifestyle. In that 20, I'll have my drink. I might get a takeaway the odd time. Yeah, sure. But in the 80, I think we all need to get better at looking at toxins, pesticides, artificial ingredients, sweeteners. Your toffee drops, yeah, they're cool, they're funky, hon. Here's my discount code, woo! But what are they doing to your gut, to your microbiome? And what are they going to do to you in 60 years' time? Are you going to be here in 60 years' time? But again, I feel like I'm no one to talk because, I'm on my phone the whole time. My phone's in my pocket the whole time. Is the radiation there good? I love my stevia. There hasn't been long-term studies done on stevia. I just tell myself now it's fine because it's a natural sweetener. But I think food quality is extremely important, and it is not focused on enough.
Yeah. And like you said there, it's going to be 50, yeah, in 50 years time, we'll probably know now, because we just don't really know anything for definite, and it's like you said, it's such a lot of them are small, minuscule things, but it's going to be 20, 30 years down the line, or the next generation.
It builds up artificial ingredients, man-made ingredients that your body was not meant to digest. If you don't recognize an ingredient on a label, your body won't recognize it either. You don't know what it's doing in there. And it's, like you said, Matt, it's not until 60, 80 years down the line we're going to know. But people, I don't want people to freak out listening to this either, because the environment we live in just makes it so difficult to live kind of naturally and organically. I haven't moved on to a completely natural deodorant just yet. That, there's still all these steps that I'm making. But even for women and guys, the products that you use every day outside nutrition, your skin is the largest organ in your body. It absorbs everything. It absorbs the makeup, it absorbs the cream, the shower gel, the hairspray, the shampoos, and all of that is going to build up in your body. But it's like I said, the environment we live in makes it very difficult to change that. It's very difficult to get your hands on the natural things. They're far more expensive. So just any baby steps you can take the odd time, that's a big change.
And I think as well, now it's not the norm, to do it. And then it's, for a lot of people, it's hard to go against the society, and start to implement these things, because it is even, your people around you and stuff. Can be, you can look like, the sore thumb if you start to do it, but which is unfortunate. And
it can become overwhelming because you start to realize everything that you have to do to lower the toxin levels in your body, and then you're like screw it, I can't do any of this. But you have to realize that even just the smallest step, filtering your water twice in the week, buying the organic beetroot, you know, every second week, little things like that reduce the buildup over time in your body.
Yeah. And do you think even focusing for people, like that's probably one of the big things with not being, say, like not tracking as much, is putting a focus more on like micronutrition and just getting in your healthy nutrients? Would you have found that yourself?
I would have big time, like focusing on having far more color. Like I literally have about 10 servings of vegetables most days. Now there's the odd day I could end up having two just because things go belly up. But just far more color because I'm not so set in eating the very same foods every day. Far more seeds, different nuts, not having the same nuts every day. Um yeah, exactly. And with that, I suppose as well, to touch on it, it's not just different and more micronutrients and vitamins and minerals, but having that variety in your diet, because you're not so set on eating the very same foods because they're just easy to add into MyFitnessPal. The more variety of whole foods, the better that is for your gut. You know, the more good bacteria that will be in your gut as a result, the more food they have to flourish off. And as a result, like your gut is your second brain, it holds a huge proportion of your immune system. So as a result of just having more variety in your diet, well, number one, you're less stressed about, you know, being obsessed over food the more you do it. But you're actually improving your mental health without even realizing it, because you're improving your microbiome and your immune system, because that's where it's held, you know. So it's all so important and so connected.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people, especially, I don't know if it's fitness industry, but like when you think about like a healthy diet before, like for a lot of people, that is like your typical like clean eating, where it's like chicken, rice, and broccoli, or a plan that you eat the exact same foods every day. But
Yeah.
like realistically, that's actually not healthy.
No. Like when was the last time like you tried a different vegetable? You know, when was the last time you had something that wasn't just broccoli? Like think outside the boxes, guys. Like go for the eggplant. Like God, you're in Bali. The amount of crazy fruit and vegetables in Bali when I was there, it was like, you know, jackfruit, snake fruit. What the hell is this? Like all these random things. But the more you can try new vegetables, the next time, like for anyone listening, the next time you go to the supermarket, pick up a different vegetable. If you always pick up spinach, why don't you try kale as well this week? If you always pick up, oh, I don't know, like spring onion, why don't you try go for, you know, the red onion or the white onion this week? If you always pick up the tomatoes, why don't you go for the actual, you know, the tomatoes, the vine with all the different colors this week? Different colors are different nutrients. So go for them. Like beetroot. I'm addicted to beetroot. No one else seems to go for it. It's
I love beetroot.
I have an issue, like an actual issue. I buy like 8 large beetroots every week, and I don't go by the fridge without just sticking a fork in, and I end up destroying the kitchen in beetroot juice. But it's one to try.
Because yeah, I actually didn't eat vegetables really until I was like mid 20s, and I know it's something I get asked this quite a bit by people who are like they don't like veg and
Yeah,
they just can't eat it. But like there's so many different ways to get veg in, and like you're saying, like I think as well over time, like your palate and that does change, and
absolutely.
when you see how beneficial it is like for your health and the way you feel, it
When you feel it,
does make it a lot, you know, easier to do. Like I'd say I'm like you, even here in Bali, there's bowls here that I think we counted like 23 different things in one of the bowls, like different veg.
insane, jealous.
But so would you have
That's what
any,
excites me these days, like different.
so for people that may like struggle with veg, is there any tips that you'd have to kind of get them started?
I would say think about how you're cooking it. People forget that they can cook in different ways and they can use different herbs and spices. So when I went through my set period, it was like I'd always boil the chicken and I'd steam the broccoli, and it was bloody horrible. And I'd leave the broccoli sitting in the fridge and it'd go smelly, and I'd still eat it 3 days later. Like disgusting. But I would say, like, why don't you try roast your vegetables? Why don't you roast them in like some extra virgin olive oil, a high quality oil, because that is extremely important for the health of your cell membranes. And that's something I mentioned on a post during the week, but that's a question for another day. But like then, you know, use some fresh cracked peppers, some sea salt. Why don't you try some chili powder? Why don't you crush up some chili flakes? Maybe you like cumin, put some fresh parsley in there. Maybe you would rather a different flavored oil. Or maybe you might actually like to like fry them a little bit, like fry your asparagus in a little bit of oil and different herbs. But the herbs, the oils, and the method of cooking is crucial. You could bake, like baking things like eggplant, you know, parsnips, carrots, baking those in a little bit of honey, like local honey. If you suffer from hay fever, get local honey and the pollen. That will help actually build up your immunity to the pollen around you, as well as getting your vegetables in. There's so many different ways to cook it, and so many different like herbs and spices and actually healthy dressings and sauces out there. You just have to put yourself out there and look for them. And then look, if you're someone who doesn't really care, in a sense, you should care, but like frozen vegetables, they're handy. Sometimes they have more vitamin C in them than the fresh veg in your supermarket, because when you pick a vegetable, the second you pick it, that's when the vitamin C levels will start to decrease, only minorly. But every single day, the vitamin C levels will start to decrease. So you're really lucky, Matt, because you're in a position in Bali where you can go out and you can pick an orange off the tree and you will get so much vitamin C from that. But if we pick an orange up in Aldi or Lidl or Tesco or Dunnes, finest range, whatever, the vitamin C levels would have decreased dramatically. So sometimes, and it's the same for vegetables. I know I'm picking on oranges here just because people always associate vitamin C with an orange, but it's the same for vegetables. So if you buy frozen vegetables, sometimes they can have more vitamin C than the fresh ones. So don't diss the frozen aisle when it comes to your vegetables, because they can be really handy for people who have very, very busy lifestyles and don't have the time to go and, you know, roast their asparagus with all these fancy herbs and wrap it in parma ham or whatever it is they do. They'd be my top tips there for sure. And one more thing, I suppose, if you really, really can't get it in, there are some really, really good greens powders out there. Terra Nova Nutrition do a fantastic life powder. And for people who just really can't get it in, but you're talking last resort. Like, guys,
Yeah,
get your vegetables from diet. There is ways.
yeah. Because even there, just with what you said, there's like hundreds of combinations there. Like, surely as well, if you looked hard enough, like you will find something that you do enjoy and like. And I think for a lot of people that maybe don't like veg or are very like not against it but find it, they seem to have the mindset towards it of when you say veg, they'll have one thing in their mind that what it is that they don't like, as in, you know, that like veg is like frozen broccoli or something, that's what it is to them. Whereas
Yeah.
like, you know, there's hundreds of vegetables, spices, sauces, and they're definitely, I think nearly everybody could find a way to enjoy some
Yeah.
type of
And there's a way to
veg.
do loads of veg. Like what I'll do probably after this, I'm going to make an omelette, but I'll steam like so many vegetables: broccoli, asparagus, mushrooms, probably some tomatoes, spring onion, and beetroot I'll have on the side. Just steam it, crap ton of it, kale, spinach, and then mix it all in with whisked eggs and egg whites. Cook up a vegetable omelette. You don't even realize you're getting that much veg in. Like there's ways to nearly hide it in your food or to hide it for your children if that's where the difficulty is. So yeah, couldn't agree more.
Perfect. So what we're going to do now, we're going to take a little detour. We're going to go and cover a topic now that I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on, and
Yes.
it's
Oh
the
God.
dreaded weighing scales. So I know there's
Comment.
a lot. Yeah, I know there's a lot of people out there that again have this. This is a kind of common issue, and there's kind of mixed views out there. Like, you know, especially in fitness, you'll hear people like throw away the scales. Others will say weigh every day. Others there's basically both camps and then all the way in between. So what's your kind of thoughts on the weighing scales, and is it something that you would see commonly maybe with your clients and people you talk to on social media, etc.?
Um, Again, it's extremely individual dependent. I have some clients who the scales means absolutely nothing to them. So checking it every week is absolutely fine. And I find it hard to believe that's even possible with some people, because I am not one of those people. You know, it is definitely something that I think would affect me if I was checking it every day or every single week. And I'm totally okay with saying that. You know, I think we're all different and it affects people differently. So it comes down to understanding what you are mentally able for. There's some people that should never, ever use a weighing scales for their body or for their food, on that matter. But it really is individual dependent. And I think sometimes people need to be okay with telling their coach, do you know what? I'm actually feeling a bit anxious about the scales this week and I don't think I should take it. Or do you know what? I've actually built up a bit of anxiety around scales as a whole. And what else can I do? I'm just not feeling good about it. There is definitely an element of having to tell someone, look, you're not at a place with the scales or with your body to focus on a physical goal right now. It's getting you too down, it's getting you too upset, it's damaging your mental health, and you need to go back to building a good relationship with yourself before you can work on any physicals. I'm doing that with 2 clients at the moment, and it's funny because at the beginning, every single week, it was like, can I not focus on the physical goals yet? Can I not focus on the physical goals yet? And I'm like, okay, well, take your weight. Tell me how you feel about taking your weight right now. If you were to go step on it right now, and that was 2 kilos up, how would you feel? Oh, well, I mean, I won't take it today because I feel like I'm maybe a bit bloated today, or I got my period and I won't do it. And I'm like, well, look, we're not going to do it then because it's affecting you that much. So it's a tool that is so important, and if it doesn't affect my client or that person or whoever it is, we will use it. It is a very, very important and useful tool to track changes in someone's inflammation levels, in their water weight, how they change during their period, and yes, if they are gaining the weight they want to, or if they are losing the weight that they want to. Doing it every 2 to 3 weeks is probably better than doing it every week, because there's obviously spikes that can happen, especially for women around their menstrual cycle. If you're inflamed because you've had a really tough training week, if you've had a lot of high salt, if you haven't been hydrated enough, we know all of these points as to why the scales can jump up and down. And we can tell people, but they just don't want to believe you sometimes, and they'll start to feel bad about it. So I have no straight answer on what I think about it. It depends on the person. And after a few weeks working with someone, or even yourself, you start to realize if you're checking your weight again after a long period of not doing it, how it's affecting you. You'll know if it's something that serves you or does not serve you. There's so many ways around progressing physically. If you're in a good place to do it, there's so many ways around progressing physically without using the scales. Obviously, progress pictures is one of them. But they have to be done correctly then as well. They need to be taken in clear lighting. They need to be wearing the same clothes every week. But if I ask someone to take progress pictures, like just take a frontal, a side, and a back, and they take about 15 different pictures, like sucking in and this way and that way, coming closer, coming further away, I'm like, do you know what? You're actually obsessed with progress pictures as well. So we need to go back to do something different here. There's so many different levels of obsession, and healthy obsessions and unhealthy obsessions. So there's no real answer there for you, Matt, but I hope there's lots of insight as to when and why it may be helpful or something that should be avoided.
Yeah. And I think something that I've always kind of said with clients and maybe implemented a few times is, like you said, if I notice that they're getting obsessive, we might like step away from it for a while. Or even if there's people, because I think some people are very like, they would say, I have a problem with the scales. And I kind of put it across that maybe you do now, but that mightn't always be the way. Like, I've had people that had a problem with the scales, obsessed with it. We stepped away from it for whatever, 6 months, even a year. And now they weigh themselves regularly. They're completely fine with it. And I think it's just understanding it better. Like you mentioned, there's so many different factors. And I kind of see kind of two camps with it as well. There's one that they actually don't have that knowledge. They don't know. They don't understand, water retention and stuff like that. But then there's the group that do understand all that, but they're still really affected by it, So then I think that's where it gets difficult as well, because for some people you might think, I'll just explain why this is moving all the time, and that will work. But sometimes that makes it either worse or literally, like you said, the people, it doesn't matter. It doesn't change their mindset towards it,
Absolutely. It's such a hard one to get right with people and explain that sometimes not using it is going to be better for them, but it's often the case.
Yeah. And then like when it comes to kind of improving your relationship with the scales, is there any particular kind of advice you would have, or kind of, I suppose you touched on it there, of knowing if it's an actual problem would be one thing.
Yeah, I think identifying that it's a problem is one thing, but then after that, if you have identified that and you want to improve your relationship with it, it's not like your relationship with your your boyfriend or your girlfriend and working on things. It's literally, you just got to step away. You got to take a time out. Um, and that's where you probably need to realize, do you know what? Physical goals, as much as your head wants them, in your heart, you know it's not something you should be working on right now. And you just have to unfollow everyone on social media that's working on a physical goal or smashing a physical goal, and you need to do you. And you can't put a time limit on how long it's going to take for you to do you before you know, get back with the scales again, because maybe you never will. Because what matters more than your body fat or your six pack or your bikini body at the end of the day is your mental health long term. And the body positivity movement is something I don't always agree with. I think it's going way too far sometimes right now. It's just stupid sometimes. But there's definitely an element of it that people should connect with and realize that screw the scales 100% for the rest of your life is going to be what some people need to do. Yeah.
I think, yeah, like it's so hard as well for, like you said, for people like often to step away from that as physical
Yeah.
goals, because it's just always associated with training or nutrition. It's like it's for that physical
It
goal.
feels like, I think a lot of the time people can feel like they're admitting defeat, and because like they've put themselves, like myself, you've put yourself out there as being the fitness girl, the physique girl, the competitor guy, the bodybuilding guy, and you have given your body and your way of living even just so much worth and definition over you, when you need to realize there's so much more to you than your physical self. And even if you have, you know, built up who you are and your persona off, your ability to look this way or look that way, you can change who you are, and you can change people's perception of who you are. And there may be opinions along the way, but screw them. What matters is how you feel about yourself, and opinions can change.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful. And even with the scales, like improving your relationship with scales, would you think, I kind of believe like improving your relationship with food, with scales, it all essentially is improving your relationship with yourself. Would you agree with that?
Yes, that is like, if anyone's going to take a message away from this podcast right now, that is it. Realizing that sometimes you're trying to fix all these little things because you think they're the issue, and they're not. The issue
Yeah.
is you've lost a link inside, and that's what you need to fix. And none of it might be related to nutrition or fitness. And I don't know if you would have spoken about it to David Young, because he always says this, like, go get a counselor. That's brilliant. Find someone to talk to, because that's what you need help with. It could be something that happened years ago when you were 10 years old and you don't realize that that's what's gone wrong. You couldn't be more bang on there. Yeah, it's fixing a relationship with yourself that sometimes might have nothing to do with food or fitness or relationships. Like, so many people try to fill voids, filling
Yeah.
voids in their life with the endless Tinder dates, the endless Bumble sessions. I don't know. I've never used Bumble. That's one I don't understand. But the endless social media gratification, the endless cuts and bulks and standing on stage every single year, the endless marathon running, the
Mm.
endless triathlon running, because there's a void in your life, the endless relationships. There's a void in your life that you're trying to fill, and you're not filling it. So you'll keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing until it's filled. But to fill it, you just need to take time to work on the relationship with yourself. And that's it. And not feel like you have to prove anything to anyone. And then it'll be filled. But people just sometimes have to go through so many wrongs to get to that right.
Yeah.
Well, got real passionate there.
Yeah. But I think sometimes it's the hardest as well. And deep down, that's what you need to fix. But it's like nearly sometimes
It's admitting.
suffering with the other stuff like the scales and food is nearly easier than really digging deep into yourself.
Absolutely, yeah. Everyone wants to try and take the easy road out. We just want to, take the pill that fixes things. That couldn't be more bang on, Matt. People have to realize that the easy way is usually a dead end.
Yeah. And I think long term, especially when you're looking for long term changes, if you're somebody that's constantly through that cycle and has never achieved that goal, there's often something more than, it's not the diet that you haven't found, or it's not the training program that you haven't found, it's not your weight or the scales. There's usually something deeper there that's
You. It's
missing.
you that you haven't found. You have not found yourself, and you need to work on finding who you are before
Yeah,
you can do anything else. Like they say in relationships, you can't fall in love with someone else until you are in love with yourself. And you don't find love with who you. Oh God, I sound like a real hippie now. You don't find love with yourself through your progress, your body fat, your ability to count calories. It's different. It's getting woo woo. It's a hippie
yeah,
something or other. I don't have a word for it, but there is a way to find, I suppose, love with yourself again if you've lost it. And if you're listening to this and you're struggling with self-love, don't be hard on yourself. It's a step-by-step process. And you'll get there, but it takes time, it takes work.
yeah. Like something I've gotten people to do recently, and I've even put in my group, is like, write down 10 things you love about yourself. And
Yeah.
it's something that some people have really difficult time doing that.
Yeah.
Like they actually can't.
10 things, like God, like you're making me kind of go, Jesus Christ, I'm not sure I could name 10 things. And that is a great question to ask people. I might rob that one on you, Matt,
Yeah.
sometimes.
But I think it's something that for a lot of us, like we would actually have trouble doing that, and that, not that that's a sign, but at least I do think that exercise might give people a bit of more of awareness of like, hold on, actually, maybe I'm thinking about myself different, like not as well as I should be,
Yeah.
because,
If you find two things, sure, that's enough. But like 10, oh my God, you've got me.
it can only be little things though, whatever, like doesn't have to be. But then that's the thing, if you can find 10 things that you love about yourself, and they're going to be so different for everybody, always just referring back to them then, can be very
Yeah.
beneficial, especially when you're not feeling the best, or you feel whatever, inferior, insecure, stuff like that. I do think that does help.
So I think after this call, I'm going to go and I'm going to create an Instagram story template. And I'm going to say that Matt Cooney has inspired me to try and come up with 10 things that I love about myself. And I'm going to put the template up. You know those templates you can kind of screenshot empty and fill them in? I'm going
Yeah.
to stick to the gram and we're going to ask people to reshare it. And I would love to see yours reshared. I want to know what your 10 things.
Yeah.
But I love that. That's really struck a chord with me for some
Mm.
reason. That's a great way of looking at it.
I think it is. It's just an interesting thing to do, because as well, like, how often do you kind of think about yourself like that?
You don't do it
Don't know.
enough.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm interested to see it.
Yeah, me too.
So the next thing I wanted to cover is kind of in that is body image. So is this something, especially with social media, that you kind of see that's very prevalent now, is like people with body image issues, or?
Yeah, I mean, so if anyone listening has followed me, um, body image is something that I suffered with majorly. Body dysmorphia is something that I've suffered with majorly, and that I have overcome. But again, it probably all came down to that missing link, trying to fill a void. Everything we've spoken about, and then just actually finding that connection somewhere else. I think social media is definitely increasing the amount of body image issues that we're seeing amongst young people and older people these days. It's a huge problem. It's definitely something I see with clients, and sometimes people don't even realize that they're suffering from body image issues because they just so like nonchalantly say, "Oh, I feel fat and ugly today," or "Oh God, like I feel like a cow today," and you're like, don't use words like that, because you're
Mhm.
using it around someone who could be like maybe in a worse off position, and then making them feel crap about themselves. And when it comes to body image, Matt, I just think social media is never going to change, and there's two extremes there right now. And people like extreme; it's sensationalized. That's what gets you followers. That's what gets you likes. I'm against that right now. I fell into that, and I'm like, I don't give two shits the way my followers go if I'm sharing a message that I'm happy with in my heart. But there's the sharing my six pack all the time, sharing my big glutes, sharing my perfect shoulders, my amazing lats, But how happy are you inside? You're not going to tell your audience that. There are some people out there that just look that amazing, and I think fair play to you. You know, if you worked hard and you look good, you should share that too. But I think it's in
Yeah.
how we share it that's important. I think sometimes, you know, people can look good, people can be lean, they can have six packs. They shouldn't have to hide that either. It's in how you share it. If you share it saying like, oh, I feel amazing because I'm super lean today, or I feel great because my glutes got an extra centimeter on them this week, well, then you're just giving your body too much worth and you're creating a body image issue for yourself or the person viewing that content. So that's one extreme. The other extreme then being body positivity right now. Like, you have to love yourself. You have to show your fat rolls. You have to sit like extremely unnaturally to lob your belly over your trousers to be like, I am amazing and I love my fat. But if I stand up, I probably actually have abs anyway, because most people sharing this, like, it's ridiculous. But I guess that's my 2 cents on the whole thing. It's just, in anything we do and in all we share, just give the body less power. I know it has power. I know how you look will affect your confidence. I get that. We're coaches. That's what we're
Mm.
trying to have people do at the end of the day. But just to give it a little bit less power, you know,
Yeah.
just see that there is more beyond the six pack. Just don't give it so much worth. Yeah.
I really like that, because it is that two sides, and it's hard to get a balance, because yeah, like you said, on one side it's like, okay, if you do have a good body, like, should you know, should you should be able to show it, but it's just the way you do it. And again, like, yeah, like that, if you've worked hard for it, you shouldn't feel like you can't show it because of it, you know.
Because
But
I
then
do
it
think
is,
that there's, like, even for both of us, like, listen, we work out, we're in good shape. Let's just say it. But we're not going to be like, guys, I'm in great shape, so you should be my client because I'm going to get you in this shape too. Because it doesn't matter what shape you're in if your relationship with how you got there wasn't good. You know, and I think you won't feel the need to make a song and dance about your body if you're kind of naturally just staying at the same place, and naturally what you're doing just has your body there. And I think we all need to realize that even if we're in good shape right now, right here, whatever good shape is, you know, put quotations around that, that can change. Like, I could gain 10 kilo over the next 6 months because of something that may be about to happen that's unforeseen. And if I do, I do. You know, my body is not my worth. I am who I am for who I am and not what I look like. I'm not going to say that wouldn't affect me. It would, but not dramatically, because, you know we change. And I think that's where, when people get that physical change and, you know, they get to the 8 week marker and they've lost their 5 kg or 10 kg, they associate too much worth with their body. Then that beyond that, when they gain some weight back, they're never happy. So happiness just needs to be in something else.
yeah, I actually completely agree, because even I found myself, if I think back a few years ago, that I did tend to kind of post more pictures when I was in better shape of myself. And like, I'll
Well,
admit that now, but and then but what it was, I suppose, at that time was more of a like an insecurity. And I did, I suppose, identify my worth more with my body, and how, like, and even I did have a period of time where I thought that I had to be in shape, you know, and whether,
very
and I wanted to be, you know, like, even that fear of like gaining fat or whatever it is, it was never extreme for me, but I did feel like that. And I think for me, it's, yeah, like you said, it's more developing my mindset and just my approach to everything. Whereas now, like, even for me, like, I'm at a stage where I like that I can maintain a pretty decent physique, but
yeah.
whether I'm like 10 pounds lighter or heavier, I actually don't really care.
Like it, because you know you have a good relationship with yourself and with food and with fitness and with how you're doing things. So I think, like, you know, if either of us had abs right now and we managed to get a shot that showed our abs, so share it. Don't feel bad about it. But like, if you're tensing and sucking in really hard to get a picture of your abs to share on social media to get appraisal, that's something different. You know, like you said, if we were to gain 10 pounds in 2 weeks time and the abs weren't there, we should still be just as happy putting up the same picture. And when you know you can do both and you're just
Hmm.
as happy with both, that's when you're onto a winner.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a really good test, nearly, for people to think about that, and that is something I do think as well. I'm like, like, even if you put two pictures there, are you still happy in both of them, you know? And I think it is a good way to kind of understand, to look beyond just the photo you see, you know? But
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
it's just an interesting topic. It's so like
I could talk about it
hard.
for hours more. We can't be shut up here.
And, yeah, and it's hard to give, there's no like definite answers or, you know,
There's
magic
so much
solution in it.
people want that, and that's what's so heartbreaking, because you just can't give them that. But more heartbreaking is that industry will pretend they can give people that just to get their money, and all they're taking is their worth and their confidence.
Yeah, it's, yeah, it's just sad, isn't it?
Sorry, yeah, yeah.
It is, it is. And I know we've been on probably, what time are we? It's been a good conversation. The last thing I wanted to ask you was something myself that I was wondering. Obviously, you have a
Yeah.
big following. For anyone listening, Nat has over 60,000 followers, and I just really wondered about that whole pressure that comes with that, because I know for you, you started out by just sharing your journey, and it wasn't like you created a business and was like, I'm going to smash this now and get all these followers. So did you find, like, either along the way, or especially maybe when you exploded, kind of, did you find that, how did you find that, like, that pressure with this added
Yeah, there is pressure for sure.
50,000 people?
There definitely is pressure, because it's a new type of pressure you didn't think could exist before. You're starting to compare your content and your ability to create content and the quality of your content to other people of similar followings. And there was definitely a period of time where, when I was going through like body image issues that we spoke about, and everything we just spoke about, that having that following probably is what made it so much harder for me to recover from, because there was just so many more eyes that I was trying to please, and so many other ways to fill the void, because there were so many more comments you could get by posting your before and after, or your abs, or your this or your that. And there is definitely an element of getting lost in the numbers in a different sense. It's, what sort of posts get you engagement, and what sort of posts get you growth. And it's sad that that's the way it is. And it's sad that you see people just feed into that so much. But they're definitely, just like my relationship with food and with fitness and with myself and with everything, there came a turning point in my relationship with social media as well, Matt, when I realized, you know what, like, yeah, it's over 60,000 right now, but we could be listening to this in 4 years' time, and maybe it'll be under 50,000, or maybe it'll be over 200,000. And I can't say that I don't care, because obviously if I can reach more people with a message that I believe is going to change their relationship with themselves, and like make the world a better place or whatever, well then great. But like, if I can't, and I'm still just impacting the people that are there, well then great. If I'm sharing a message I'm happy with that isn't affecting my mental health, then I'm happy at the end of the day, because I flipped that other switch where I gave so much worth to the opinions of strangers, um, to take it back and just be so sure that I'm helping in some shape or form. And God, when I say helping, it's not like I pop on every day giving a million tips. I just try kind of be positive now and share who I am truly. And just to be able to share who I am truly with confidence for a change is something that's so new to me, because I was sharing so many things in the past that wasn't me, and I didn't have confidence. So I'm just loving sharing the real me right now. And whatever way the numbers go, so be it. But if I'm helping just be more positive and real and authentic, and then share nutrition and fitness at the same time, it's a world I'm finally enjoying again.
Yeah, I think that's really just so good to hear. And even the word you said there, impact, was something that just stuck out to me. And that's something that especially with social media, I think it's very easy to get caught up in numbers. But if you do, like you said, if you can have, I suppose, values, like identify your values, the message you want to get across, and think about the impact you want to make over the numbers, that's where you're happy regardless of what happens,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
that's something like even a lot of people that's why I was wondering about the pressure, because a lot of people often say to me, they're like, oh, you should have like a way bigger following. But like a quote I heard that I always like go back to here was like, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And that's what I always think is like, I have the exact amount of followers that I'm meant to have. And
Yeah,
even looking back now, there was this period of time where I was like that whole chasing followers thing. And
yeah,
looking now, I'm like, if I actually had 100,000 followers back then, I wouldn't have been able for that mentally, or I wasn't in a place that
I
like
I wasn't ready.
I had the exact amount of followers that I should have had, you
Yeah,
know?
everything. Well, to a degree, I am a believer in that everything in life happens for a reason. Sometimes we just can't see the reason at that time. There's still a few things in life right now I'm trying to say, why the hell has that happened? I still don't think there's a good reason, but I'm going to trust and hope that there is a good reason. And it's the same when it comes to followers and why and when they grow and when they fall. There's a reason for everything. It's just sometimes it takes a while to reveal itself.
Yeah, that's actually cool. And I think on that note, that could be
Mic
how,
drop.
yeah, mic drop. So just before I let you go, is there any final thoughts on today? Maybe just a quick message for the listeners, because I know we went through a ton of stuff over the last hour or so.
Okay. Number one, I suppose the main takeaway message here is focus on your relationship with yourself and making sure that is strong and not filling that void with anything else. Number two, like whatever you're doing, just think long-term sustainability. Are you really truly happy with everything you're doing right now? And if you're not, that's okay. Get help. And number three, Matt Cooney is amazing. That's about it. He's an amazing coach. Like if you're looking for help, like God, everything you said, Matt, this is one of the best conversations I have had in so long. I know I was kind of saying something to you about this before we started recording,
Hmm.
and honestly, that conversation has just like reignited a passion in me to be surrounded by more like-minded people like yourself. That was brilliant. So thank you so much for having me here and just being so open with everything you do as well.
Not a bother at all. And thank you so much for taking your time out your day to join us. And thank you as well for being so open and honest with this conversation, because I know, especially, and I know that's the way you are on social media as well. And really just want to thank you for that, because I know that you're an inspiration to so many people, and there's people
Oh,
way beyond that you even know. There's so much value is taken from the way your message and what you share on social media. So thank you for that.
that's so lovely, Matt. Thank you.
And for anybody that may not follow you, actually, where can they find you, or maybe just drop your Instagram handle?
Instagram, Instagram is probably the best way. The website is there. So the website is nathalielenon.ie, but my Instagram handle is at Nathalie Lennon _. But I do spell my name with a H, so it's Nathalie. I try to see my DMs come in, but I don't always keep on top of them. So if you really want to contact me, email is probably the best way. But listen, if anyone has made it this far into our chats, it'd be great if you could share and tag both of us, because that's probably the best way to get attention and we can reshare.
Perfect. And I'll drop the links in below as well with the show notes. So again, thanks a million, Nat, for coming on and joining me. And to the listeners, I'm sure you got some value from this. But if you did, please let us know, drop us a comment. And if you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet, subscribe. And we will see you in the next episode. Thanks again, Nat.
Thanks, Matt.